Snowflakes drifted through the amber glow of streetlights, each one a silent witness to what was about to unfold. Chicago held its breath under a blanket of white. The temperature had plummeted to 12 degrees below zero. Wind cut through the empty streets like a blade made of ice. Michigan Avenue Bridge stretched across the frozen Chicago River, its steel frame crusted with frost. The bridge connected two worlds. On one side, the glittering towers of the Magnificent Mile rose into the night sky. On the other, the sleeping neighborhoods where real people lived real lives. It was 11:47 on a Thursday night. Most of the city had surrendered to the cold hours ago. But not everyone. A Bentley Continental GT, black as midnight and twice as expensive, glided across the bridge surface. The tires whispered against ice that had formed despite the salt trucks. Inside the luxury vehicle, Victoria Aldridge sat behind the wheel with one hand guiding the car and the other holding a tablet computer that glowed blue in the darkness. She was 31 years old. Blonde hair pulled back so tight it could have been painted on, eyes the color of a frozen lake. Her suit cost $8,000. Her watch cost more than most people earned in a year. Everything about her screamed money and power and control. The tablet screen showed numbers, spreadsheets, financial reports from Aldridge Industries, the defense contracting empire her father had built over 30 years. The company was worth $4.2 billion. It employed 6,000 people. It held contracts with the Pentagon that could change the course of wars. And someone had been stealing from it. $67 million, missing, vanished over the course of 8 years like smoke in the wind. Victoria's jaw tightened as she scrolled through the quarterly reports. Her father Robert had died 6 weeks ago. Heart attack, the doctors said. Natural causes. He was 63, too young but not impossible. She had believed them, until she found the discrepancy. The phone mounted on the dashboard lit up. Caller ID displayed the name Richard Bennett, Chief Financial Officer, her father's most trusted advisor for 22 years, the man who had taught her how to read a balance sheet when she was 16. Victoria touched the answer button. Her voice came out cold as the air outside. I see the numbers, Richard. Tomorrow morning, my office, 7 a.m. Victoria, his voice was smooth, practiced, like expensive whiskey poured over glass. There's a reasonable explanation for this. Accounting errors happen, currency fluctuations, timing differences between fiscal quarters. $67 million is not a timing difference. Of course not. I'm simply saying we should discuss this calmly before involving auditors. Your father would have wanted us to handle this internally. Victoria's fingers tightened on the steering wheel. The Bentley's leather-wrapped rim creaked under the pressure. My father is dead, Richard, and tomorrow morning you're going to explain to me exactly where that money went, or I'm calling the FBI before lunch. Silence stretched across the phone connection. 1 second, 2, 3. When Richard spoke again, something had changed in his tone, something Victoria couldn't quite identify. Years later, she would remember this moment. She would understand that she had just signed her own death warrant with those words. Of course, Victoria, 7 a.m., I'll have everything prepared. She ended the call. The tablet screen reflected in her eyes. Numbers, always numbers. Her father had taught her that numbers never lied. People lied. Words lied. But numbers told the truth if you knew how to read them. The Bentley approached the midpoint of the bridge. Victoria glanced up from the tablet just long enough to check the road ahead. Empty. No other traffic. Just snow and ice and the dark ribbon of river below. That was when the world exploded into chaos. Headlights, blinding, coming from the wrong direction. A black SUV burst through the intersection at the bridge's north end. No lights until the last second, accelerating instead of braking. aimed like a missile at the Bentley's passenger side. Victoria had exactly 1.3 seconds to react. Her brain processed the physics with the cold precision her father had drilled into her. Mass times velocity equals force. The SUV outweighed her car by 2,000 pounds. Impact angle would spin her vehicle like a coin flicked across ice. She yanked the wheel left. Too late. Metal screamed against metal as the SUV crashed into the Bentley's rear quarter panel. The impact point was precise, calculated, designed to send the luxury car into an uncontrolled spin. Everything became slow motion and fast motion at the same time. The Bentley rotated 180 degrees. Glass shattered into a million diamonds. The airbag exploded from the steering wheel, punching Victoria in the chest hard enough to crack ribs. The tablet flew from her hand and disappeared into the footwell. Her head snapped sideways, and she felt something hot and wet run down her temple. Blood. The world tilted. The Bentley slammed into the bridge railing with a sound like thunder. Steel guardrails built in 1927 were never designed to stop a 3-ton vehicle traveling at 40 miles per hour. The metal groaned, bent, gave way. And suddenly Victoria wasn't on the bridge anymore. She was flying. The Bentley sailed through the air for what felt like an eternity. Through the shattered window she could see the river below, black water, ice chunks floating like teeth in a frozen mouth. The drop was 38 feet. The car didn't fall straight down. It rotated, tumbled, found purchase against the bridge support beam that jutted out at a 45-degree angle. The passenger side door caught on the steel beam. The Bentley hung there, suspended between bridge and river. Half the car dangled over nothing. The other half pressed against cold metal that groaned under the weight. Victoria's seatbelt had locked across her chest. She hung at an angle, suspended like a puppet with cut strings. Blood dripped from her forehead onto the deployed airbag. Each breath sent fire through her ribs where the airbag had struck. She tried to move. Her body wouldn't respond. Shock, adrenaline, fear, all of it crashed over her at once. Through the spider-webbed windshield she could see snowflakes still falling, peaceful, beautiful, oblivious to the fact that she was about to die. The metal groaned again, a sound like a wounded animal. The Bentley shifted, slipped, dropped 6 inches before catching again. Victoria's hand fumbled for the door handle, found it, pulled. Nothing happened. The door was crushed, jammed, blocked by the beam that was simultaneously saving her and killing her. She reached for her phone. It wasn't in the center console where she always kept it. Gone, vanished in the impact. The metal groaned a third time. This time Victoria knew what that sound meant. The beam was giving way. In 30 seconds, maybe less, the Bentley was going to drop 30 feet into water cold enough to stop a human heart in 3 minutes. Her door wouldn't open. The windows were shattered but too small to crawl through before the car fell. She was trapped. For the first time in 6 weeks, since her father's funeral, since taking over the company, since discovering the theft, Victoria Aldridge felt something other than cold fury. She felt terror. And in that moment of absolute helplessness, she thought of her mother. They hadn't spoken in 3 years. Victoria couldn't even remember what the fight had been about. Pride, stubbornness, the same qualities that had made her a successful CEO. Now those qualities meant she was going to die alone on a bridge at midnight with no one to know or care except maybe her mother, who wouldn't find out until the news reported it tomorrow. The metal gave its final groan. The Bentley lurched, started to slide. Victoria closed her eyes, and then a fist punched through the passenger side window. 200 yards away, Jamal Carter had been sitting at a red light when he saw the collision. He was driving a Ford F-150 that had 230,000 miles on the odometer. The truck was older than his daughter. The paint had faded from navy blue to something closer to gray. The passenger side mirror was held on with duct tape. The radio only worked on AM stations. But the engine ran smooth as silk because Jamal maintained it himself. Every 3,000 miles, every fluid checked, every bolt tightened. His grandfather had taught him that a man takes care of his tools, and a vehicle is the most important tool a working man owns. Jamal was 34 years old. He had skin the color of strong coffee and hands that were scarred from years of working on engines. His shoulders were broad, his posture was straight. He moved with an economy of motion that most people never noticed, but some people did notice. People who had military training, people who had been taught to read body language and threat assessment, because Jamal Carter was not just a mechanic, but nobody knew that anymore, and he preferred it that way. Beside him in the passenger seat, his daughter Maya slept with her head against the window. She was 7 years old, braids tied with pink ribbons, wearing her favorite purple jacket over frozen pajamas, clutching a stuffed bear that had been her mother's. Jamal had picked Maya up late from his sister's house. He worked the evening shift at Pete's Auto Repair most days. Then he worked the midnight shift as a security guard at a warehouse 3 nights a week. 22 hours between the two jobs. It was the only way to make rent and keep Maya in a good school and still have money left over to save. The American dream, he thought sometimes. Work yourself to death so your kid can have better. But he never said it out loud, because Maya deserved better than a father who complained. The light turned green. Jamal pressed the accelerator gently. The old Ford rolled forward. That was when he saw the SUV run the intersection at the bridge approach. No lights, high speed, wrong direction. Jamal's brain switched into a different mode, a mode he hadn't accessed in 4 years, not since the last time he wore the uniform, not since the last mission, not since the day he walked away from everything he had trained for. Time slowed down. He watched the SUV's trajectory, calculated the intercept point, saw the Bentley in the target zone, knew what was about to happen 3 full seconds before it did. The impact occurred exactly where his mind predicted it would. The Bentley spun, hit the railing, broke through. Most people would have driven past, called 911, maybe stopped to look but not to help. Too dangerous, too risky, not their problem. Jamal Carter was not most people. He pulled the F-150 to the curb, put it in park, turned on the hazard lights. Maya stirred, her eyes fluttered open. "Daddy, where are we?" Jamal reached over and gently adjusted the jacket around her shoulders. His hand was steady. His voice was calm. Years of training had taught him that panic was contagious. So was calm. "Baby girl, I need you to stay in the truck. Lock the doors after I get out. Do not leave this vehicle no matter what. Understand?" Maya saw something in her father's face, something that made her sit up straighter, made her nod without asking questions. "Yes, Daddy." He kissed her forehead, smelled the strawberry shampoo in her braids, memorized the moment because he didn't know if he would come back. Then he stepped out into the storm. The cold hit him like a physical force. 12 below zero. Wind chill made it worse. He wore a Carhartt jacket over his mechanic's uniform. Work boots. No gloves, no hat, it didn't matter. He ran toward the bridge. His boots found purchase on ice without slipping. His breathing stayed even. His mind was already 3 steps ahead, calculating. Distance to the crash site, 240 feet. Time to cover at a sprint, 30 seconds. Structural integrity of the damaged railing, compromised. Weight load before failure, unknown. Water temperature, 33 degrees. Survivability window, 3 minutes before hypothermia incapacitation, 7 minutes before likely death. The mathematics of life and death played out in his head with the same precision he once used to calculate blast radiuses and trajectory angles. He reached the bridge railing and looked over. The Bentley hung suspended on the support beam. Passenger side crushed against steel. Driver visible through the broken window. Alive, conscious, terrified. The metal groaned. Jamal had perhaps 90 seconds before the car fell. He climbed over the twisted railing, found footing on the support beam. It was 8 inches wide, covered in ice, angled at 45 degrees toward the water. One slip meant a 38-foot fall. He didn't slip. He moved across the beam with the confidence of a man who had once fast-roped from helicopters onto ships in the middle of the ocean, who had breached buildings through windows, who had carried wounded teammates across terrain while under fire. The beam was nothing compared to that. He reached the Bentley, looked through the passenger window, saw the woman inside. She was conscious but going into shock, blood on her face, breathing shallow, eyes wide with fear that was turning into resignation. She thought she was going to die. Jamal made a decision. He pulled back his fist and punched through the remaining glass in the passenger window. The glass was already fractured from the impact. It gave way easily. He brushed away the fragments with his sleeve. The woman stared at him like he was an apparition. "Ma'am," his voice was steady, calm, the voice he had used countless times before in situations just like this. "I need you to stay very still. Do not move. Do not try to help. Just stay still and trust me." She blinked, blood dripped from her forehead. Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. Who are you?" "Someone who's going to get you out." The beam groaned again. The Bentley shifted, dropped 3 inches. Jamal didn't flinch. He reached through the window and found her seatbelt release, pressed it. The belt retracted with a snap. The sudden release of tension made the woman pitch forward. Jamal caught her with both hands, one under her shoulders, one behind her head, supporting her weight, preventing her from hitting the dashboard. "I've got you, stay with me." He pulled her toward the window, slowly, carefully. The Bentley's frame had compressed in the impact. The window opening was smaller than it should have been. He had to angle her body, protect her head, watch for sharp metal edges. The woman was light, maybe 120 pounds, but she was limp with shock, dead weight, harder to move than someone who could help themselves. Jamal got her halfway through the window when the beam gave its final warning, a crack like a gunshot. The metal was fracturing, 10 seconds, maybe less. He pulled harder, got her shoulders through, her hips caught on the window frame. 5 seconds. He shifted his grip, one arm around her waist, lifted her like she weighed nothing, because compared to the gear he used to carry, she didn't. Her legs cleared the window. 3 seconds. Jamal turned, stepped onto the beam, the woman in his arms, 38 feet above black water. 2 seconds. He moved, fast, precise. Every step placed exactly where it needed to be. 1 second. He reached the bridge support. Solid ground, safety. Behind him, the beam gave way with a shriek of tortured metal. The Bentley plunged into the river. The splash echoed across the frozen city. White spray erupted into the night. Then the car was gone, swallowed by black water that closed over it like a mouth. Jamal stood at the edge of the bridge, the woman still in his arms, and watched the river reclaim what he had taken from it. 3 more seconds and she would have been inside that car. 3 more seconds and he would have been on that beam when it failed. 3 more seconds and both of them would be in the water now. But they weren't. They were alive. Jamal set the woman down gently on the bridge surface. She was shaking, going into shock. The cold was getting to her now that the adrenaline was fading. He shrugged out of his Carhartt jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. The jacket was worn and stained with engine oil. It probably cost $40 new. She was wearing a suit that cost 200 times that. It didn't matter. She was freezing. "Ma'am, look at me." She lifted her eyes. They were blue like ice, like the frozen river below, but now they held something other than cold. They held life. "Stay awake. Help is coming. You're going to be fine." Her hand reached up, touched his arm, her lips moved. "Thank you." Jamal nodded once, then he heard Maya calling, "Daddy, Daddy." He turned, saw his daughter running toward him despite his instructions to stay in the truck. She was crying, terrified. She had watched everything from the passenger window. Jamal met her halfway, scooped her up, held her tight. "I'm okay, baby girl, I'm okay." I thought. "SHH, I know, but I'm here, I'm right here." Sirens wailed in the distance. Getting closer, Chicago police, fire department, ambulance. Other cars had stopped now, people getting out, pointing, taking videos with their phones. The modern instinct, record first, help second. Jamal carried Maya back to the F-150, looked back once at the woman he had saved. She was sitting up now, other people surrounding her, giving her blankets, asking if she was okay, playing hero now that the danger had passed. The woman's eyes found his across the crowd. She stared at him, trying to memorize his face, trying to understand who he was. He turned away, got into his truck, started the engine, and drove away before the police could ask for his name. Victoria Aldridge woke up in Northwestern Memorial Hospital at 3:37 in the morning. Her head felt like someone had taken a hammer to it. Her ribs screamed every time she breathed. Her whole body was one giant bruise, but she was alive. The doctor said she had a concussion, 3 cracked ribs, lacerations that required 17 stitches, mild hypothermia. She was lucky. Another few minutes in that cold and she would have lost fingers to frostbite. Another few minutes and she wouldn't be here at all. Victoria stared at the white ceiling tiles and tried to remember everything that had happened. The impact, the spin, the fall, the suspension over black water, the certainty of death, and then the hand, punching through glass, strong, sure, pulling her out like she weighed nothing. A man, black, maybe mid-30s, wearing a mechanic's uniform with a name patch. She couldn't remember what the patch said. Everything had been blurring together, pain and fear and cold, but she remembered his voice, calm, steady. Like saving people from cars hanging off bridges was something he did every day. She remembered his eyes, dark, focused, not panicked, not uncertain, just absolutely certain that he was going to save her, and he had. Then he disappeared. The police had questioned her for an hour, took her statement, asked for a description of her rescuer. She told them everything she could remember, but it wasn't much. A man, mechanic's uniform, old truck, that was all she had. No name, no phone number, no way to find him, no way to thank him. The door to her hospital room opened. Richard Bennett entered. He was 58 years old, silver hair perfectly styled, suit that cost $5,000, expression of concerned mentor carefully arranged on his face. "Victoria, thank God," he crossed to her bedside. "I came as soon as I heard. The board is in shock. We thought, after your father, if we lost you too." Victoria looked at him, really looked at him. 6 hours ago she had told him she was calling the FBI about the missing $67 million. 6 hours ago he had sounded different on the phone when she threatened him. And 1 hour after that phone call, a black SUV had deliberately crashed into her car. No lights, high speed, precise impact angle designed to send her through the railing. That wasn't an accident, that was an assassination. Victoria's mind, still sharp despite the concussion, began connecting pieces that she didn't want to connect. The missing money, her father's sudden heart attack 6 weeks ago, the SUV that appeared from nowhere exactly when she was alone on the bridge, and Richard Bennett, standing at her bedside, asking about her condition, looking concerned, looking guilty. She didn't say any of this out loud, didn't let it show on her face. Her father had taught her to play poker before she could ride a bike. Never show your cards, never let them know what you're thinking. "I'm fine, Richard." Her voice came out steady. "Calm, just bruised. I'll be back in the office Monday." "Monday?" he blinked. Genuine surprise broke through his mask. "Victoria, you should take time to recover. The company can survive without you for a few days." "The quarterly audit." She held his gaze. "We're still starting that Monday. I want Klein and Associates in our financial records by noon." Something flickered across Richard's face. Anger, fear, calculation. It was gone in an instant, but Victoria saw it, and she knew. Richard Bennett had tried to kill her, her father's most trusted friend. The man who taught her about business, who had been at every birthday party, every graduation, every major moment of her life. He had murdered her father, and tonight he had tried to murder her. Of course, Richard's smile was perfect, practiced. Whatever you think is best, I'll make sure everything is ready. He left. Victoria waited until the door closed. Then she closed her eyes and tried not to shake. Someone had just tried to kill her. That same someone would try again because she knew too much, because she was asking the wrong questions, and she had no proof, no evidence, just instinct and suspicion and the cold certainty that she was in danger. She needed help. She needed the man who had saved her, but she didn't even know his name. The funeral of Robert Aldridge was held on a gray Tuesday in October, 6 weeks before the bridge. 400 people attended, CEOs, politicians, military brass, everyone who was anyone in Chicago's elite circles. They filled the pews of Fourth Presbyterian Church and spilled out onto the sidewalk. Victoria stood at the front in a black dress that cost $3,000 and felt like sandpaper against her skin. She shook hands, accepted condolences, listened to people tell her how sorry they were, how much they loved her father, how he was a great man. None of them mentioned that he had died alone, that the heart attack took him at 3 in the morning in his office, that he was found by the cleaning staff 8 hours later. None of them mentioned that Victoria hadn't spoken to him in 2 weeks before he died, that their last conversation had been an argument about the company, about succession planning, about whether she was ready. "You're too cold," her father had said. "You run that company like it's a machine, but it's people, Victoria, real people with real lives." She had replied, "You taught me to separate business from emotion, to make hard decisions, to put the company first. I taught you wrong." Those were his last words to her. 3 days later, he was dead. Now Victoria stood in the church and felt nothing. No tears, no grief, just a hollow space where emotions should be. She was good at hollow spaces. Richard Bennett gave the eulogy, spoke about Robert's vision, his integrity, his dedication to family and country, his legacy. It was a beautiful speech, perfectly written, perfectly delivered. Victoria watched him and wondered if any of it was true. After the funeral, after the reception, after everyone had gone home, Victoria went to her father's office. She used her key, sat in his chair, looked at the view he had looked at every day for 30 years. The desk was clean, too clean, like someone had gone through it, removed things, organized what was left. She opened the drawers, found nothing unusual, files, pens, business cards. She was about to leave when she noticed the painting on the wall behind the desk. A landscape, mountains, trees. Her mother had given it to her father on their 20th anniversary. Victoria stared at the painting. Something about it bothered her. She couldn't say what. She stood, walked to the painting, ran her fingers along the frame and felt the seam. The painting wasn't hanging on the wall, it was mounted on a panel that moved. Victoria's heart started beating faster. She pressed on one corner, heard a click. The panel swung open. Behind it was a safe. Digital keypad, 12 digits, fingerprint scanner. Victoria tried her own fingerprint, nothing happened. The safe was coded to her father's prints only, but she knew the number code. Her father had always used the same number for everything. Her mother's birthday, September 14, 1963. She typed 91,419,630,914. The safe beeped, the lock disengaged, the door swung open. Inside was a USB drive, a single envelope, and a handwritten note in her father's script. The note said, "If you're reading this, I'm dead. And it wasn't an accident, trust no one, especially not Richard." Victoria's hands shook as she reached for the USB drive. That was 6 weeks ago. She had been trying to investigate quietly ever since, checking files, reviewing transactions, looking for proof of what her father had discovered, and tonight someone had tried to kill her for it. Pete's auto repair opened at 7 a.m. Monday morning. Jamal Carter arrived at 6:30, same as always. He unlocked the bay doors, turned on the lights, started the industrial coffee maker that Pete had owned since 1987. The shop was small, 4 bays, hydraulic lifts that creaked when they raised, tool chests organized with labels written in Pete's shaky handwriting, calendars on the wall showing women in bikinis standing next to muscle cars. It smelled like motor oil and brake fluid and honest work. Jamal loved it. He had worked at Pete's for 4 years, ever since he came back to Chicago, ever since he stopped being someone else and started being just Jamal Carter, mechanic. The pay was $38,000 a year. No benefits, no vacation, no retirement plan, but Pete was fair. The work was good, and nobody asked questions about where Jamal had been before. That was worth more than money. Maya rode with him to work most mornings. She would sit in the office and do homework until school started at 8:30. Then Jamal would drive her there and come back to the shop. This morning she was quiet, still processing what she had seen on the bridge 3 days ago. She hadn't said much about it, just held his hand tighter than usual, looked at him differently, like she was realizing her father was someone other than just Dad. They pulled into the shop parking lot. The old F-150 rattled to a stop. Jamal killed the engine. "Daddy," Maya's voice was small. "Are you a superhero?" Jamal looked at his daughter, 7 years old, braids tied with ribbons, wearing a winter coat they had bought at Goodwill, holding a backpack with notebooks she filled with drawings and equations that seemed too advanced for 2nd grade. He thought about how to answer that question. "No, baby girl. I'm just someone who was in the right place at the right time." "But you saved that lady. You could have died." "I know. Why did you do it?" Jamal was quiet for a moment. Then he said what his grandfather had told him when he was Maya's age. "Because when you have the ability to help someone, you have the responsibility to help them, even if it's hard, even if it's scary. That's what makes us human." Maya thought about this. Then she nodded, like it made sense to her 7-year-old brain. They went inside. Pete was already there, 62 years old, white, bald except for a fringe of gray around his ears, wearing coveralls that had his name embroidered on the pocket, smoking a cigarette even though the sign on the wall said no smoking. Carter got a Mercedes coming in at 9. Transmission trouble, customers a real piece of work, rich lady, wants it fixed yesterday. Jamal poured coffee into a mug that said "World's Okayest Dad." Maya had given it to him for Father's Day. "What's the problem?" "Grinding in 3rd gear. I'm guessing synchro, but you're better with the German stuff than me." Jamal nodded, took a sip of coffee. It was terrible. Pete had never learned to make good coffee in 40 years of trying. "I'll take a look." The morning passed in the familiar rhythm of work. An oil change, brake pads on a Honda, diagnostic on a Ford that wouldn't start. Jamal moved between jobs with practiced efficiency. His hands knew what to do before his brain finished thinking about it. At 8:30, he drove Maya to school, watched her skip up the steps, saw her turn and wave. He waved back. When he returned to the shop, there was a black Mercedes S-Class parked in the lot. New, maybe 3 months old, worth $120,000. Pete was in the bay, looking under the hood with an expression like he smelled something bad. "That's the customer I told you about. She's in the office. Wants to talk to the mechanic directly." Jamal walked to the office. The door was open. Inside stood a woman, blonde hair pulled back, blue eyes like frozen lakes, expensive suit, bandage on her forehead. Victoria Aldridge, the woman from the bridge. Jamal stopped in the doorway. For a half-second, something flickered across his face. Recognition. Then it was gone, professional mask back in place. Victoria looked at him, her eyes narrowed slightly, like she was trying to remember where she had seen him before. But she didn't remember, because when she saw him on the bridge, she was in shock, traumatized. It was dark. He was backlit by streetlights, and she had only looked at him for 30 seconds before he disappeared. Now he was just a mechanic in coveralls, standing in an oil-stained office, surrounded by calendars with bikini models. Different context, different person. She didn't recognize him. "You're the mechanic." Her tone implied surprise, like she had expected someone different. "Yes, ma'am, Jamal Carter. Pete says you have transmission trouble. The car is grinding in third gear. I need it fixed today." Jamal walked past her to the key box, found the Mercedes key. "I'll need to do a diagnostic first, 30 minutes, then I can give you an estimate." "I don't have 30 minutes. "Then the problem will get worse, ma'am. Transmission issues don't fix themselves." Victoria's jaw tightened. She wasn't used to being told no, wasn't used to anyone dictating terms to her. How much worse? "Depends. Could seize completely. Could damage the whole drivetrain. Could leave you stranded on the expressway in January." She stared at him. He met her gaze calmly. No challenge, no backing down, just stating facts. "Fine, 30 minutes, I'll wait." Jamal nodded, took the key, walked out to the Mercedes. Victoria watched him go. Something about him bothered her, not in a bad way, just in a way she couldn't define. He moved differently than other mechanics she had dealt with, spoke differently, carried himself with a kind of contained confidence that seemed out of place. She pulled out her phone, tried to focus on work emails, but her eyes kept drifting to the bay where Jamal had put the Mercedes up on the lift. He was underneath the car now, not looking at it, listening to it. Engine running, transmission cycling through gears, his head tilted, eyes closed, like he could diagnose by sound alone. After 20 minutes he came to the office, wiping his hands on a red cloth. Third gear synchronizer is failing. Metal fatigue in the shift collar. Needs full replacement. Parts and labor will run $3,800. Victoria's eyes widened. $3,800, that's outrageous. "That's the manufacturer's part cost, ma'am. I can't change that." "How do I know you're not just trying to scam me?" Something flickered across Jamal's face. Hurt, maybe, or offense, but he kept his voice level. "You don't. But the harmonic frequency of the metal stress is 1847 Hz. That's consistent with a stage 2 fatigue fracture. At your current mileage, you have maybe 200 miles before complete failure. Could be more, could be less. Your choice whether to risk it." Victoria blinked. The technical specificity caught her off guard. Most mechanics gave vague answers. This man was giving her engineering data. How long to fix it? 2 days. Parts have to be ordered from the dealer. "I need it sooner." "I can't make parts appear faster, ma'am." Victoria's phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Richard Bennett. She ignored it. "Fine, 2 days. Call me when it's ready." She gave him her card, gold embossed, Aldridge Industries, CEO. Jamal took the card, looked at it. His expression didn't change, but inside pieces were falling into place. Aldridge Industries, defense contractor. Billions in Pentagon contracts. Owner died 6 weeks ago of a heart attack. Daughter nearly died 3 days ago when her car went off a bridge. That wasn't a coincidence. Victoria called a car service, left the shop without looking back. Jamal watched the town car drive away. Then he looked down at the business card in his hand. Victoria Aldridge, CEO, the woman he had saved, the woman who didn't recognize him, the woman who was in more danger than she knew. Jamal Carter had walked away from his old life 4 years ago. He had promised himself he was done. No more missions, no more violence, no more inserting himself into situations that could get him killed. He was a father now. Maya needed him. That came first. Always. But as he stood in the parking lot of Pete's Auto Repair, holding a business card from a woman who had a target on her back, Jamal felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. The pull of duty. The need to protect. The certainty that if he walked away, someone innocent was going to die, and he couldn't live with that. Not again. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number he hadn't called in 3 years, a number he had sworn never to use again unless it was an emergency. The line rang twice. Then a voice answered, gruff, military, surprised. "Carter, that you?" "Yeah, Marcus, it's me." "Thought you went civilian. What do you need?" Jamal looked at the business card again, made a decision he knew he would regret. "I need a favor. Background check. Full workup. Target is Victoria Aldridge, CEO of Aldridge Industries." "The defense contractor. What's your interest?" "Let's just say, I think someone's trying to kill her." Silence on the line. Then Marcus laughed, not humor, recognition. "Carter, you can't stay out of it, can you? Even after everything, you still have to be the hero." "Just get me the information, Marcus." "Roger that, give me 6 hours." Jamal ended the call, looked at the Mercedes on the lift, looked at the gold-embossed card. Then he got back to work, because whatever was coming, he was going to need to be ready. And Jamal Carter was very good at being ready. Marcus Drake called back in 5 hours and 43 minutes. Jamal was under a Chevy Silverado when his phone buzzed. He slid out from beneath the truck, wiped grease from his hands, and answered on the third ring. "What did you find?" Marcus's voice came through rough and gravelly. 20 years in force recon had done that to him. That and the cigarettes he refused to quit. "Your instincts are solid. Victoria Aldridge is in deep water. Her father, Robert Aldridge, died 6 weeks ago. Official cause was heart attack. But here's the thing. The autopsy report has anomalies." Jamal walked away from the bay where Pete and the other mechanic couldn't hear. Outside, the afternoon sun was trying to burn through January clouds. Failing. It was still 15 degrees. What kind of anomalies? Elevated potassium levels. Way elevated. The kind you see in cardiac arrest induced by injection. But the medical examiner marked it as natural causes anyway. No investigation. Case closed within 48 hours. Jamal's jaw tightened. He knew what that meant. Someone had paid someone, made the problem disappear. Who signed off on the autopsy? Doctor named Patterson, works for Cook County, clean record. But 2 days after signing that report, he paid off $140,000 in student loans. Cash deposit. No explanation. So Robert Aldridge was murdered. That's my read. And the daughter, Victoria, she's been digging, quietly, requesting financial audits, asking questions about discrepancies in company accounts. Someone doesn't want her asking those questions. The bridge accident. Yeah, I pulled the police report. Black SUV. No plates visible on traffic cameras. Driver never stopped. Never came forward. Vehicle was probably stolen, used once, then torched. Professional job. Jamal looked back at the shop, at the gold Mercedes sitting in Bay 3, at the business card in his pocket. Who's behind it? Can't prove anything yet, but the smart money is on Richard Bennett, Chief Financial Officer. Been with the company 22 years. He's the one with access, the one with opportunity. And according to the preliminary financial review Victoria requested, there's $67 million missing from company accounts. $67 million, that was motive enough to kill. What else? Bennett has connections. Police commissioner is his golf buddy. Half the city council owes him favors. He's untouchable through normal channels. You can't just walk into a police station with this. What about the feds? FBI would need hard evidence. Right now all we have is suspicious circumstances and a dead man who can't testify. Victoria Aldridge needs proof before she can move on him. Jamal was quiet for a moment, processing, planning, falling back into the mindset he had walked away from 4 years ago. She needs protection. She needs a bodyguard or a whole team of them. But here's the problem, Carter. Bennett is smart. He's not going to try another highway accident. He's going to get close. Use someone she trusts. Make it look natural. Heart attack, overdose, fall down the stairs. So she needs someone inside. Someone Bennett doesn't know about. Marcus laughed. It was a dark sound. You volunteering for another tour, thought you were done with this life. I am done, but I can't let an innocent woman get killed. It's not about owing, it's about doing what's right. Another laugh. This one had something almost like admiration in it. You never change. That's going to get you killed someday. Maybe, but not today. What do you need from me? Jamal thought about it, thought about Maya, about the promise he made when Teresa died, to stay safe, to be there for their daughter, to not throw his life away on noble causes. But he also thought about Teresa's words. The last thing she said before the cancer took her voice, before the pain got too bad for talking. Promise me something, Jamal. Promise me you'll never stop being who you are. Don't let this break you. The world needs men like you. Maybe Teresa had known. Maybe she had understood that asking him to walk away from helping people was like asking him to stop breathing. I need a way inside Aldridge Industries, something that puts me close to Victoria without raising Bennett's suspicions. There's a security position, night shift supervisor. Building just opened up the posting yesterday. One of their guys quit suddenly. Suddenly? Yeah, took a job in Florida, left the same day. Probably got a very generous offer he couldn't refuse. Or a very convincing threat. That too. Point is, the job is open. You've got the right background, military, security experience. You could apply today and be working by Monday. Do it, send me the posting, I'll apply. Carter, you sure about this? You've got a kid to think about. I know. That's exactly why I'm doing this. Maya doesn't need to grow up in a world where the rich and powerful can kill people and get away with it. Marcus was quiet for 3 full seconds. Then he said, I'll have the job posting forwarded to your email in 10 minutes. And Carter, watch your back. Bennett has already killed 2 people that we know of. He won't hesitate to make it 3. The line went dead. Jamal stood in the parking lot of Pete's Auto Repair. The cold air burned his lungs. His phone felt heavy in his hand. He thought about Maya, about the promise he made, about staying safe. Then he thought about Victoria Aldridge, about pulling her from that car, about the way her hand had touched his arm, about the whispered thank you. She was someone's daughter too, and if he didn't help her, she was going to die. Jamal went back inside, back to work, back to being just a mechanic, but inside his head he was already planning, already calculating, already becoming someone he thought he'd left behind. The warrior was waking up, and Richard Bennett had no idea what was coming. Victoria sat in her office on the 47th floor and stared at numbers that refused to make sense. 3 days since the bridge. Her ribs still ached every time she breathed. The stitches on her forehead itched beneath the bandage. Her doctor had told her to rest, to take pain medication, to stay home. She had ignored all of it, because staying home meant being vulnerable, meant being alone, meant giving Richard Bennett another chance to finish what he started. The external audit had begun that morning. Klein and Associates, 3 forensic accountants with briefcases and laptops and expressions that gave nothing away. They had set up in the conference room, started pulling files, reviewing transactions, following the money trail. Victoria knew what they were going to find. The question was whether they would find it before Richard found a way to destroy the evidence. Her computer pinged. New email from HR department. Subject security position filled. She opened it out of habit. HR sent her notifications about every new hire, part of her father's policy. The CEO should know everyone who worked in the building. The email said they had hired a new night shift security supervisor, former military, excellent references, starting Monday. Name, Jamal Carter. Victoria stared at the name. It was familiar. She knew it from somewhere. Then she remembered. The mechanic. The one who had diagnosed her transmission problem with engineering precision. The one who spoke like he had a college education and hands that looked like they had built things more complicated than cars. Jamal Carter. She pulled up his employment application. The system showed his full file. Age 34. Education high school diploma. Previous employment Pete's Auto Repair 4 years. Before that, United States Navy 8 years honorable discharge. Navy. That explained the posture, the discipline, the way he had looked at her car like he could see through metal to the problem inside. Victoria clicked deeper into the file. There was a note from the HR director. Special recommendation from security consultant. Former Force Recon officer vouched for candidate. Highly qualified. Something about this bothered her. Not in a bad way. Just in a way that felt like pieces of a puzzle that didn't quite fit together. A mechanic who spoke like an engineer, who moved like military, who was now working night security in her building. Too many coincidences, but Victoria didn't believe in coincidences. Her phone rang. Richard Bennett. She let it go to voicemail. He had been calling 3 times a day since the bridge, checking on her, expressing concern, asking when she would be back in the office. She hadn't answered once. Instead, she had her assistant screen everything, had her driver take different routes home every day, had the locks changed on her penthouse. Small precautions, probably not enough. But it was all she had until she could prove what Richard had done. The audit would take 2 weeks, maybe 3. The accountants would follow every dollar, trace every transaction, build a case that even Richard's connections couldn't dismiss. All she had to do was stay alive that long. Victoria closed the email, looked out the window at the city below. 47 stories of glass and steel between her and the ground. She used to feel powerful up here, untouchable. Now she just felt exposed. Someone knocked on her office door. She turned. Her assistant Jessica stood in the doorway looking nervous. "Ms. Aldridge, there's a man here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he says it's important." "Who is it?" "He says his name is Jamal Carter. He's starting as security tomorrow. He wanted to introduce himself." Victoria's heart skipped, just slightly, just enough that she noticed. "Send him in." Jessica disappeared. A moment later, Jamal Carter walked through the door. He was wearing different clothes, not the mechanic's coveralls, dark pants, white button-down shirt, simple but clean. His posture was perfect, military straight. His eyes scanned the room in less than 2 seconds. Exit locations, sight lines, threats. Victoria saw all of it, because she had been taught to read people, to notice details. And Jamal Carter was a man made of details that didn't add up. "Mr. Carter, I didn't expect to see you here." "No, ma'am, I imagine not." His voice was calm, respectful, but there was something underneath it, something that sounded like purpose. "You're starting tomorrow, night security." "Yes, ma'am. I wanted to introduce myself, get a sense of the building, understand what I'm protecting." The way he said that last word, protecting, like it meant something more than just watching monitors and checking locks. Victoria stood, walked around her desk, stopped about 6 feet from him, close enough to talk. far enough to maintain professional distance. You're a mechanic. Why take a security job? I need the money, ma'am. 2 jobs is better than one, and I have experience. 8 years Navy. Security is in my wheelhouse. What did you do in the Navy? Something flickered across his face. Maintenance mostly, kept the machines running. He was lying, not about the Navy part, that was real, but about what he did there. Victoria could see it in the way his shoulders tensed slightly, the way his eyes didn't quite meet hers when he said it. You're overqualified for night security. Maybe, but I'm also underqualified for most corporate jobs. No college degree, no business experience. I work with my hands. This is what I can do. That part was true. She could hear it in his voice. Victoria studied him, looked for the angle, looked for the reason, because people didn't just appear in your life twice in 1 week by accident. Mr. Carter, I'm going to ask you a direct question, and I want a direct answer. Yes, ma'am. Are you here because of me? He held her gaze. His eyes were dark and steady and absolutely certain. Yes, ma'am, I am. The honesty surprised her. Most people would have lied, would have made up an excuse. He just told the truth. Why? Because 3 nights ago, I pulled you out of a car that was about to fall into a river. And then I saw you again at the auto shop. And then I heard you had a new security position open. And I thought maybe that wasn't a coincidence. Victoria's breath caught. She hadn't recognized him on the bridge, the darkness, the shock, the trauma, but now standing here in daylight she could see it. The same eyes, the same calm, the same certainty. You're the man who saved me. Yes, ma'am. Why didn't you stay? Why didn't you give a statement to the police? Because I had my daughter in the truck, and I don't like attention, and because you were safe. That's all that mattered. Victoria felt something crack inside her chest, some wall she had built over years of business school and corporate warfare. This man had saved her life and asked for nothing, had disappeared into the night, had gone back to his ordinary life. And now he was here, standing in her office, offering to protect her again. Mr. Carter, that accident wasn't an accident. I know. Someone is trying to kill me. I know that too. And you're here because you want to help. I'm here because it's the right thing to do. Victoria laughed. It came out bitter, cynical. Nobody does things just because they're right anymore. I do. 2 words, simple, absolute, true. Victoria felt tears trying to form. She pushed them back. She hadn't cried since her father's funeral, hadn't let herself feel anything but cold focus and controlled rage. I can't pay you extra. The security job is all I can offer without raising suspicions. I'm not asking for extra. Why would you risk your life for someone you don't even know? Jamal was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. 4 years ago, my wife died, cancer. It took 18 months. I watched her fight every day, watched her get weaker, watched the light go out, and I couldn't do anything, couldn't fix it, couldn't save her. He paused. Victoria waited. Since then, I've been trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do, how I'm supposed to live. I walked away from the military because I needed to be there for my daughter, but part of me is still that person, the one who runs toward danger instead of away, the one who can't watch someone die when I have the power to stop it. His eyes met hers again. You didn't deserve what happened on that bridge. You don't deserve what's coming next, and I have the skills to help you, so that's what I'm going to do. Victoria felt the tears come despite her best efforts. Just one, sliding down her cheek. She wiped it away angrily. You don't know what you're getting into. Richard Bennett is powerful, connected, ruthless. He's killed before. He'll kill again. I've faced worse. Have you? Ma'am, I spent 8 years as a Navy SEAL, the last 4 with DVGRU. That's SEAL Team 6. I've been shot at by people a lot scarier than Richard Bennett. I'm still here. They're not. SEAL Team 6. Victoria's brain tried to process that. The most elite special operations unit in the world. The men who killed Osama bin Laden. The ghosts who didn't exist on any official roster. And one of them was standing in her office, offering to protect her, asking for nothing in return. Why did you leave? My wife needed me. Then my daughter needed me. That was more important than missions. And now, your daughter still needs you. She does. Which is why I'm not going to let her grow up in a world where men like Richard Bennett get away with murder. Victoria made a decision. The kind of decision her father would have called reckless. The kind that could get her killed or could save her life. Okay, you start tomorrow, night shift, but we need to be careful. If Richard finds out you're helping me, he'll move against you, against your daughter. Let him try. Those 3 words were said with such absolute confidence that Victoria almost believed them. I have evidence. A USB drive my father left. Recordings, documents, but I can't move on it yet. The external audit needs to finish. I need everything locked down before I go to the FBI. How long? 2 weeks, maybe 3. That's a long time to stay alive when someone wants you dead. I know, which is why I need your help. Jamal nodded once. You have it, but we do this smart. I'm just security. You're just the CEO. We don't meet privately. Don't talk where anyone can see. Richard has eyes everywhere. Agreed. How do we communicate? Jamal pulled a phone from his pocket. Not a smartphone, an old flip phone. The kind nobody used anymore. Burner, untraceable. I'll give you the number. You need me, you call. I'll find a way to respond. He handed her a slip of paper with 10 digits written in neat print. Victoria took it. Their fingers touched for just a second. She felt the calluses, the scars, the strength. Thank you, Mr. Carter. Jamal, and you're welcome, ma'am. He turned to leave, got to the door, stopped, looked back. One more thing. The next 2 weeks you don't go anywhere alone. You vary your routine. You trust no one. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you call me immediately. I will. He left. Victoria stood alone in her office, 47 floors above the city, looking at a phone number written on paper. For the first time since the bridge, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. Maya Carter met Victoria Aldridge on a Tuesday afternoon. It wasn't planned. It was one of those accidents that changes everything. Jamal had been working at Aldridge Industries for 5 days, night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. He would sleep from 8 to 2, then work at Pete's shop from 3 to 10, then back to Aldridge. It was brutal. 16-hour days, 6 hours of sleep, no time off. But it was necessary. During those night shifts, Jamal walked every floor, memorized every exit, studied every security camera, learned the patterns, the weaknesses, the places where someone could enter without being seen. And he watched Richard Bennett. The CFO worked late most nights, usually left around 9 p.m., always used the executive elevator, always had his driver waiting, always looked calm and controlled and completely innocent. But Jamal knew better. He had seen evil before, had looked it in the eyes in dark places across the world. Evil didn't always look like monsters. Sometimes it looked like a silver-haired executive in a $5,000 suit. On Tuesday, Jamal's sister called at 2 in the afternoon. Emergency. Her son was sick. She couldn't pick Maya up from school. Could Jamal do it? He said yes. Called Pete. Said he'd be an hour late. Pete grumbled but agreed. Jamal picked Maya up at 3:15. She climbed into the F-150 with her backpack and her stuffed bear and a smile that made everything worth it. "Daddy, guess what? I got an A on my science test." "That's my girl. What was the test on?" "Engineering. We had to build bridges. Mine held 20 pounds. Jamal grinned. His daughter, the engineer just like her old man. "Where are we going?" "I need to stop by my night job, just for a minute. I forgot my security badge. Can't work tonight without it." "Can I come inside?" Jamal hesitated. He didn't want Maya anywhere near Aldridge Industries, didn't want her connected to this situation, but it was just the lobby, just to grab his badge from the security office. "Okay, but you stay close to me, don't wander off." "I promise." They parked in the visitor lot, walked through the revolving doors into the marble lobby, 47 stories of glass and steel above them, expensive art on the walls, a fountain in the center that probably cost more than Jamal earned in a year. Maya's eyes went wide. "Whoa, this place is fancy." "Yes, it is." They walked to the security desk. Jamal signed in, grabbed his badge from the drawer, turned to leave, and walked directly into Victoria Aldridge. She was coming from the elevator, wearing a different expensive suit, carrying a briefcase, looking exhausted. Their eyes met. Victoria's widened slightly. She glanced at Maya, at Jamal, at the badge in his hand. Maya looked up at Victoria, then at her father, then back at Victoria. "Daddy, is this the lady from the bridge?" Everything stopped. Victoria's expression shifted from surprise to understanding to something that looked almost like pain. She knelt down, brought herself to eye level with Maya, smiled gently. "Yes, sweetheart, I think I am. Were you there that night?" Maya nodded. "I saw Daddy save you. He was really brave." Victoria's eyes got shiny. "He was very brave. What's your name?" Maya Carter, I'm 7. "It's nice to meet you, Maya. I'm Victoria." "Are you a princess? You dress like a princess." Victoria laughed. It was the first real laugh Jamal had heard from her. It changed her whole face, made her look younger, softer, human. "No, honey, I just work in this building, in a very boring office with lots of numbers." "Numbers aren't boring. I love numbers. I got an A on my engineering test." "Engineering, that's wonderful. You must be very smart." Maya beamed. "Daddy says I get it from Mom. She was smart too, but she died from cancer." The lobby felt very quiet suddenly. Victoria glanced up at Jamal. He gave the tiniest shake of his head. "Not here, not now." Victoria looked back at Maya, reached out and touched her shoulder. "I'm sorry about your mom, sweetheart. I lost someone too, my dad, just a little while ago." "Was he nice?" "He was very nice. He would have liked you." Maya thought about this. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a drawing. It was crayon on construction paper. A bridge, a car, stick figures. "I drew this. It's the bridge where Daddy saved you. See, that's you, that's Daddy, that's me in the truck." Victoria took the drawing like it was made of glass, looked at it with an expression that Jamal couldn't quite read. When she looked up, tears were running down her face. "This is beautiful, Maya. Thank you. You can keep it to remember." "I will. I'll put it in my office, right where I can see it every day." Maya smiled, satisfied. "We have to go now. Daddy has work." Victoria stood, wiped her eyes, looked at Jamal. He could see the question forming, see her trying to reconcile this. The warrior who saved her life. The father with a 7-year-old daughter who drew pictures with crayons. "Thank you again, Mr. Carter, for everything." Jamal nodded. "Just doing my job, ma'am." He took Maya's hand, started to walk away. Maya called back. "Bye, Miss Victoria. You're really pretty when you smile." Victoria laughed again, waved, watched them leave. When Jamal looked back from the revolving door, she was still standing there, holding the crayon drawing, staring at it like it was the most valuable thing she owned. In the truck, Maya buckled her seatbelt. "I like her, Daddy. She seems sad, though." "She is sad, baby girl. Because her dad died." "Yeah, and some other things." "Are you helping her, like you help people who bring broken cars?" Jamal started the engine, pulled out of the parking lot, thought about how to answer that question. "I'm trying to, Maya. Sometimes people need more than just fixing cars. Sometimes they need someone to stand with them when things are scary." "Is she in danger?" "Too smart. His daughter was too smart. Maybe, I'm not sure yet." Maya was quiet for a minute. Then she said, "I'm glad you help people, Daddy. Even when it's scary, Mom would be proud." Jamal felt his throat tighten. "You think so?" "I know so. She told me before she died. She said you were the bravest man she ever knew, and that I should always be brave like you." He reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're already the bravest person I know, baby girl." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. Jamal's mind was already working, already calculating. Maya had just changed something, had made Victoria Aldridge see him as more than just a bodyguard, more than just hired protection. She had made Victoria see him as human, as a father, as someone with something to lose. That could be dangerous, could make Victoria hesitate to put him in harm's way, or it could be exactly what they needed, a connection. A reason to trust each other beyond professional necessity. Either way, the game had changed, and Richard Bennett was still out there, still planning, still hunting. The clock was ticking. The parking garage attack happened on Thursday night at 8:45 p.m. Victoria was working late again. The audit was in its second week. The accountants were finding things, following trails, building a case that would bury Richard Bennett, but they needed more time. Victoria gathered her things: briefcase, laptop, phone, the crayon drawing from Maya that she had framed and put on her desk. She looked at it every time doubt crept in, every time she thought about running, about hiding, about giving up. The little girl's smile reminded her why she was doing this. She took the executive elevator down to the parking garage, level P3, where the executive spots were located. Her new car was waiting, another Mercedes, black, armored, bulletproof glass she had upgraded after the bridge. The elevator doors opened. The parking garage was quiet. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Concrete pillars cast shadows. Her heels clicked against the floor as she walked. She was halfway to her car when she saw them. Two men, both large, both wearing dark clothes, both moving to intercept her path. Victoria's heart started racing. She looked around, no one else visible. No security cameras pointed this direction. Someone had planned this, positioned it perfectly. She turned to run back to the elevator. Too late. A third man stepped out from behind a pillar, blocked her path. She was trapped. The first man spoke. His voice was cold, professional. This wasn't his first time doing this. "Ms. Aldridge, we need you to come with us. Mr. Bennett wants to have a conversation." "I'm not going anywhere with you." That wasn't a request. He stepped forward, reached for her arm, and that's when Jamal Carter appeared. He came from nowhere. 1 second the hallway was empty except for Victoria and the three men. The next second Jamal was there. He moved like water, like wind, like violence made elegant. The first man never saw him coming. Jamal's elbow struck the side of his head with precision. The man dropped like a puppet with cut strings. The second man reached for something under his jacket. A gun. Jamal's hand shot out, grabbed the man's wrist, twisted. The snap of breaking bone echoed through the garage. The gun clattered to the concrete. Jamal kicked it away, then swept the man's legs. He hit the ground hard, didn't get up. The third man was bigger, smarter. He didn't reach for a weapon. He raised his fists, came at Jamal like he knew what he was doing. He didn't. Jamal blocked the first punch, slipped the second, countered with a strike to the solar plexus that folded the man in half, then a knee to the face, then silence. The whole thing took 11 seconds. 3 trained attackers, 3 unconscious bodies on the concrete, 1 man standing. Jamal wasn't even breathing hard. He turned to Victoria. His eyes scanned her quickly, checking for injuries, assessing her state. "Are you hurt?" Victoria shook her head. She couldn't speak, couldn't process what she had just seen. "We need to leave now, more could be coming." He took her arm, not rough, but firm, guiding her toward the elevator. She stumbled in her heels. He caught her, steadied her. "My car." "Not safe. They could have planted something, explosives, tracker, we take mine." They got to the elevator. Jamal pressed the button. The doors opened immediately. They stepped inside. As the doors closed, Victoria saw the 3 men still lying where they fell, saw the way Jamal had dismantled them with brutal efficiency, saw the reality of who he was, not just a mechanic, not just a security guard, not just a former SEAL, a weapon, trained, honed, lethal. The elevator rose. Victoria finally found her voice. "Who were those men?" "Bennett's people. He's escalating, tried to grab you instead of kill you, probably wants to make you sign something, transfer control. Then you'd have an accident later." "You were watching me." "I've been watching you every night since I started. You think I trust the regular security rotation? Half of them are probably on Bennett's payroll." The elevator stopped at the lobby level. Jamal checked the hallway, empty. He guided Victoria toward the side exit. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe, away from here." They got to Jamal's truck. He opened the passenger door, helped her in, closed it, walked around to the driver's side. As he started the engine, Victoria's phone rang. Richard Bennett. She looked at the screen, looked at Jamal. He shook his head. "Don't answer. He's testing you, seeing if his guys succeeded." The phone stopped ringing. A minute later, a text came through. "Victoria tried to call, need to discuss audit findings. Can you come to my office? Important. R." Jamal glanced at the screen. He doesn't know yet. The men haven't reported back. That gives us maybe an hour. An hour for what? To get you somewhere secure, to call the police, to start building a case. I told you, Richard has the police. Then we call the FBI, tonight, right now, before he can cover his tracks. Victoria shook her head. The audit isn't finished. We don't have everything yet. If we move now, he'll destroy evidence. He'll walk. If we don't move now, you'll be dead. They stared at each other, the truck idling, the city lights reflecting off snow. Victoria made a decision. Take me to your place just for tonight. Tomorrow I'll stay at a hotel. Somewhere he can't find me, but I need time to think, to plan, to figure out how to do this right. Jamal hesitated. Bringing her to his apartment meant putting Maya at risk, meant crossing a line he had sworn not to cross, but the alternative was leaving Victoria alone, vulnerable, an easy target. Okay, but we're clear on something. I have a 7-year-old daughter. She comes first, always. If this gets too dangerous, I pull out. You understand? I understand. I wouldn't ask you to risk her. Jamal nodded, put the truck in gear, drove into the night. Behind them in the parking garage, 3 men were waking up, checking injuries, making phone calls, and Richard Bennett was starting to understand that he had a new problem, a problem he hadn't planned for, a problem that fought back. Jamal's apartment was not what Victoria expected. It was small, 2 bedrooms, maybe 900 square feet. The furniture looked like it came from Goodwill. The TV was old, the carpet was worn, but it was clean, spotless, and everywhere she looked there were signs of love, photos of Maya and a beautiful woman with kind eyes, Teresa, Maya's mother, Jamal's wife. drawings on the refrigerator, school papers with gold stars. A shelf full of science books that seemed too advanced for a 7-year-old. A home, not a house, a home. Maya was asleep when they arrived. Jamal's sister had picked her up from school, fed her dinner, put her to bed. Jamal paid his sister, thanked her, didn't explain why he had a blonde woman in an expensive suit standing in his living room at 10 p.m. His sister raised an eyebrow, left without asking questions. Victoria stood awkwardly by the door. She had never felt more out of place in her life. "You can sit. I'm going to check on Maya, then we'll talk." He disappeared into the back bedroom. Victoria heard quiet voices, Jamal's low murmur, Maya's sleepy response. "Daddy, you're home early." "Yeah, baby girl, got off early tonight. Go back to sleep." "Okay, love you, Daddy." "Love you more." The door closed softly. Jamal came back to the living room. He looked tired, the kind of tired that comes from carrying too much weight for too long. "Coffee." "Yes, please." He made it in a machine that had probably been white once but was now more yellow, poured it into mugs that didn't match, handed her one that said "World's okayest dad." They sat on opposite ends of a couch that sagged in the middle. "I'm sorry," Victoria said. "I shouldn't have come here. This puts you and Maya in danger." "You didn't have a choice. Bennett is moving faster than we thought. The parking garage was supposed to be secure." "How did you know? How did you get there so fast?" "I've been tracking you every night, following your patterns, staying close. I saw you leave your office, saw the elevator go to P3, knew you were vulnerable there. The regular security guard for that level called in sick tonight. That wasn't a coincidence." Victoria sipped the coffee. It was terrible, too strong, too bitter. She drank it anyway. "Those men, you took them apart like they were nothing." "They weren't nothing. They were trained, but I was trained better." "SEAL Team 6. "Yes." "What did you do there? What were your missions?" Jamal was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, harder, like he was remembering things he wished he could forget. "I can't tell you that. Most of it is still classified, but I'll tell you this. For 8 years, I was part of a unit that went places nobody else could go, did things nobody else could do, stopped threats before they became headlines." "You killed people?" "Yes." No hesitation, no shame, just simple truth. "Does it bother you?" "Every day, but those people were going to kill innocents. Women, children, civilians who didn't have a choice. I gave them that choice. I gave them a chance to live. That's enough." Victoria looked at him, really looked at him, saw the scars on his hands, the way he held himself, the burden he carried. "Why did you leave?" "Teresa got sick. Stage 3 breast cancer. She needed someone to fight for her the way I fought for strangers. So I came home, got discharged, took care of her, took care of Maya. It wasn't enough. The cancer won anyway." "I'm sorry." "Me too." They sat in silence for a while. The apartment was warm, quiet, safe. Victoria felt something she hadn't felt in 6 weeks, since her father died, since she took over the company, since Richard Bennett tried to kill her. She felt like she could breathe. "What happens now?" Jamal set down his coffee mug, leaned forward. His expression was serious. "Now we finish this, but we do it smart. The audit needs to complete. We need the evidence locked down. Then we go to the FBI, not the local office. Straight to Washington, someone Bennett can't touch." "That's 2 more weeks." "Can you stay hidden that long?" "I don't know. The company needs me. The board is watching. If I disappear, they'll panic." "Then we do it differently. You go to work, public places only, never alone. I'm with you every second. Shadow protocol. Bennett will know I'm there. but he won't be able to move without witnesses. That's a lot of risk for you. I've taken bigger risks for worse reasons. Victoria looked down at her hands. They were shaking. She hadn't realized. I'm scared, Jamal. I've never admitted that before, but I'm terrified. Richard was my father's best friend. I trusted him. And he killed my father, tried to kill me. What if I'm wrong about everyone? What if there's no one I can trust? Jamal reached over, took her hands in his. His grip was warm, strong, steady. You can trust me. Why? You barely know me. Because I know what it's like to lose everything, to feel alone, to wonder if you're strong enough to keep going. And I know that nobody should have to face that alone. A tear slid down Victoria's cheek. Then another. She tried to stop them, couldn't. Jamal didn't let go of her hands, didn't tell her to stop crying, just held on, anchor in a storm. After a while, the tears stopped. Victoria wiped her face with the back of her hand, laughed shakily. I haven't cried like that since I was 12. Sometimes we need to. My father used to say crying was weakness. Your father was wrong. Crying is human. Weakness is giving up, and you're not giving up. Victoria looked at him, saw the certainty in his eyes, believed it. No, I'm not giving up. Good, then here's what we do tomorrow. They talked for 2 hours, made plans, built strategies, identified risks, found solutions. When they were done, Victoria looked at the clock. 1:15 a.m. I should go, find a hotel. You can stay. Couch pulls out, I'll take the chair. I can't ask you to do that. You're not asking, I'm offering. Tomorrow we'll get you set up somewhere secure. Tonight you sleep here, safe. Victoria wanted to argue, wanted to maintain her independence, wanted to be the strong CEO who didn't need help, but she was so tired, and the couch looked soft, and the idea of being alone in a hotel room while Bennett's people hunted her was terrifying. Okay, thank you. Jamal pulled out the couch, found sheets and a blanket, made it up like he had done this before. Bathroom is down the hall, there's a lock on the door. You need anything, I'll be right here. He settled into the chair by the window, positioned so he could see the front door and the hallway, alert, watching, protecting. Victoria lay down on the pull-out couch. The springs creaked. The blanket smelled like laundry detergent, clean, simple. She closed her eyes. For the first time in 6 weeks, she felt safe enough to sleep. And in the chair by the window, Jamal Carter kept watch through the night. Not because he was being paid, not because it was his job, but because it was who he was, and because some battles were worth fighting. Some people were worth saving, even if it cost everything. The call came on a Tuesday morning at 6:15 a.m. Jamal was awake. He was always awake at 6:15. Old habits from the Navy. Body clock set to pre-dawn. Mind sharp before the sun rose. He was making coffee in his small kitchen when his phone buzzed. The burner. The one only Victoria had the number for. He answered on the first ring. Jamal. Her voice was tight, controlled, but underneath he could hear fear. They have the audit results. Klein and Associates finished early. They found everything. 67 million, 8 years of transactions, all tied directly to Richard. That's good, that's what we needed. They're calling an emergency board meeting. Today, 4 p.m., Richard will be there. The full board, the auditors, everyone. Jamal's mind started calculating. He knows he's caught. He'll have a plan, an exit strategy. I know, but this is our chance. Public forum, witnesses. He can't make me disappear in front of the entire board. Don't be sure about that. Desperate men do desperate things. I have to be there, Jamal. If I don't show, he wins. He'll spin it, make me look guilty, make himself the victim. Jamal poured coffee, thought about it, ran through scenarios, risk assessment, threat vectors, escape routes. Okay, but we do it smart. I'm in the room, not as security, as your personal advisor. You brought me because you don't trust anyone else. The board won't like that. I don't care what they like. You die, they get nothing. Tell them that. Victoria was quiet for 3 seconds. Okay, 4 p.m., 47th floor, conference room A. I know the room. I've walked it 20 times, 3 entrances, 2 exits. Windows don't open. I'll be there at 3:30, sweep for weapons, secure the space. Thank you. Victoria, one more thing. If this goes wrong, if Bennett makes a move, you do exactly what I say. No questions, no hesitation, understand? I understand. The line went dead. Jamal stood in his kitchen holding a coffee mug and thinking about what was coming. The final confrontation. The moment when all the planning either worked or failed. Behind him, Maya appeared in the doorway, wearing pajamas with unicorns on them, rubbing sleep from her eyes. Daddy, who was that? Work, baby girl. The lady from the office, Miss Victoria. Too smart, his daughter was too observant. Yeah, she needs help with something. Maya walked over, wrapped her arms around his waist, pressed her face against his side. Be careful today, Daddy. I have a bad feeling. Jamal set down the coffee, knelt so he was eye level with his daughter, looked into eyes that were so much like Teresa's. I'm always careful, and I always come home. You know that. I know, but today feels different. She was right. Today was different. Today was the day it ended, one way or another. Maya, you know I love you more than anything in the world, right? I know, Daddy. And you know that everything I do to make the world safer for you. So you can grow up and be anything you want to be. She nodded against his chest. If something happens today, if I don't come home right away, I need you to know that I'm okay, that I'm doing what's right, and that I'll always find my way back to you. Maya pulled back, looked at him with 7-year-old wisdom that seemed older than her years. You're going to fight the bad man, aren't you? The one who hurt Miss Victoria. Jamal couldn't lie to her, wouldn't insult her intelligence. Maybe, if I have to. Will you win? Yes. He said it with absolute certainty, because Maya needed to hear certainty, needed to believe her father was invincible, even if he wasn't sure himself. She hugged him tighter. Okay, then go win, but come home after. Always, baby girl, always. He held her for a long moment, memorized the feel of her small body against his, the strawberry shampoo smell of her hair, the way her heartbeat was steady and trusting. Then he stood, made her breakfast, got her ready for school, dropped her at his sister's house with instructions to keep her there until he called. His sister looked at him with questions in her eyes. He shook his head. Not now, not today. He drove to Aldridge Industries, arrived at 3 p.m., 1 hour early. The building was quiet, most employees gone for the day. The ones who remained were scattered across different floors. None on 47. Jamal took the elevator up, used his security badge, walked into conference room A. It was exactly as he remembered. Long table, 20 chairs, glass walls overlooking the city, one main entrance, one service entrance for catering, emergency exit at the far end. He checked every corner, looked for surveillance devices, found 3 cameras, standard security, nothing unusual. He checked under the table, behind the credenza, inside the air vents, looking for anything that didn't belong, weapons, explosives, listening devices. Nothing. That bothered him. If Bennett was planning something, there should be signs, should be preparation. Unless Bennett wasn't planning to do it here, unless this was just theater, a distraction while the real attack happened somewhere else. Jamal pulled out his phone, called Victoria. Change of plans, don't come to the building. Bennett might have something planned outside, An ambush before you get here. I'm already here. I came early. I'm in my office. Jamal's blood went cold. Alone. My assistant is here. Jessica. She's been with me for 3 years. I trust her. Get out, now. Come to conference room A. Bring Jessica if you have to, but don't stay in that office. Jamal, you're being paranoid. I'm being careful. There's a difference, please. She must have heard something in his voice. Fear, maybe. The kind he usually kept buried. Okay, I'm coming. 5 minutes later, Victoria walked into the conference room. She was alone, wearing a dark blue suit, hair pulled back, carrying a briefcase with the audit reports inside. She looked scared but determined, like a soldier going into battle. Jamal had seen that look before, on faces of people who knew they might not survive but were willing to die for something bigger than themselves. Where's Jessica? I sent her home, told her the meeting was canceled. I don't want anyone else in the crossfire. Smart. Jamal nodded approval. The board arrives at 3:45. We have 15 minutes. Let me brief you on the security. He showed her the exits, the sight lines, the places where someone could hide, the protocol if shooting started. If shooting starts, Jamal, this is a board meeting, not a war zone. Every place is a war zone if someone wants it to be. You need to be ready. Victoria set down her briefcase, walked to the window, looked out at the city spread below them, 47 floors of distance between her and the ground. I used to love this view, used to feel powerful up here, like I was on top of the world. You are on top of the world. No, I'm just a woman who's about to accuse her father's best friend of murder, in front of a dozen people who have known Richard for decades, who trust him, who think I'm crazy. Jamal walked over, stood beside her, not too close, respectful distance. You're not crazy, you're brave, there's a difference. I don't feel brave, I feel terrified. Brave people are always terrified. That's what makes it brave. She turned to look at him. When you were deployed, when you went on missions, were you scared? Every single time. What did you do? How did you push through it? Jamal thought about the answer, about the nights before ops, about the helicopter rides to target, about the moments before breaching doors. I remembered why I was doing it, remembered the people I was protecting, the lives that would be saved if I succeeded, the families who would go home safe because I did my job. And now, why are you doing this? He met her eyes, held her gaze. Because you deserve justice, because Maya deserves to see that good people win sometimes, and because I made a promise to myself that I would never walk past evil again, not when I have the power to stop it. Victoria's eyes got shiny. Thank you for everything. If this goes wrong, if Bennett wins somehow, I want you to know that you gave me hope when I had none. You reminded me what goodness looks like. It's not going to go wrong. How can you be sure? Because I won't let it. The elevator dinged, doors opened, board members started arriving. The battle was about to begin. They came in suits and expensive watches and expressions of concern that didn't reach their eyes. The board of directors of Aldridge Industries, 12 people who controlled billions of dollars, who made decisions that affected thousands of lives, who had known Robert Aldridge for decades, and who had no idea one of their own was a murderer. Richard Bennett arrived last. He walked in like he owned the room, silver hair perfect, suit impeccable, smile warm and practiced. His eyes found Victoria, found Jamal standing behind her. The smile faltered for just a second, a flicker of surprise, of calculation. Then it was back. Victoria, I'm glad you're here. And who is this? Jamal Carter, my personal security consultant. Security at a board meeting. That seems excessive. After someone tried to kill me in the parking garage last week, I don't think it's excessive at all. The room went quiet. Board members looked at each other, whispered, shifted in seats. Richard's expression became concerned, perfect acting. That's terrible, I hadn't heard. Have the police found who was responsible? Not yet, but I have some ideas. She opened her briefcase, pulled out the audit report, thick stack of papers, bound, professional, damning. Shall we begin? The board chairman cleared his throat. Harold Chen, 70 years old, semi-retired, more figurehead than leader, he looked uncomfortable. Victoria, Richard, this is highly irregular, calling an emergency meeting with less than 24 hours notice. I apologize for the short notice, but given what the audit uncovered, I thought it was important we address this immediately. She passed copies of the report around the table. Each board member received one. Each one opened it, started reading. The room became very quiet. Richard Bennett sat perfectly still. His face showed nothing, but Jamal watched his hands. They were gripping the edge of the table, knuckles white, fight or flight response. He was preparing for something. Jamal shifted his weight, positioned himself where he could see all three entrances. Ready. Harold Chen finished the first page, looked up. His face had gone pale. This says there's $67 million unaccounted for, over 8 years, tied to offshore accounts. That's correct. Richard, did you know about this? Richard's smile was perfect, sad, disappointed. I did. I discovered the discrepancy 3 months ago. I've been investigating it quietly, trying to find the source before bringing it to the board. Victoria's jaw tightened. You're lying. Victoria, I understand you're upset. Your father's death has been hard on all of us, but accusing me without evidence is unproductive. I have evidence. She pulled out a USB drive, the one from her father's safe. This contains recordings, transactions, proof that you've been embezzling from this company for 8 years, proof that my father confronted you about it, and proof that you had him killed. The room exploded, everyone talking at once, shouting questions, demanding answers. Richard held up his hands, still calm, still in control. This is absurd. Victoria, you're clearly not well. The trauma from the accident, the grief over your father, it's affecting your judgment. My judgment is fine. Play the recording. One of the board members had a laptop. Victoria plugged in the USB, found the file, hit play. Robert Aldridge's voice filled the room, strong, angry, alive. Richard, I've seen the accounts. I know what you've been doing. $67 million over 8 years. Funneled through shell companies in the Cayman Islands. I trusted you, and you stole from me. Richard's voice responded, calm even then. Robert, you don't understand. I was protecting the company. Those funds were necessary for operations the board wouldn't approve. Operations? You mean your gambling debts? Your investments that failed? I found those too. You've been stealing to cover your losses. It's not stealing, it's borrowing. I was going to pay it back. You're fired, and I'm calling the FBI. Silence on the recording, then Richard's voice, colder now, all pretense gone. I can't let you do that. It's already done. I made copies, sent them to my lawyer. You're finished, Richard. No, Robert, you are. The sound of a struggle, a crash, Robert's voice shouting, then silence. Then Richard again, breathing hard. Make it look like a heart attack, natural causes, no investigation. Another voice, unfamiliar. It's done. The potassium injection won't show on a standard toxicology screen. The recording ended. The conference room was absolutely silent. Every eye was on Richard Bennett. He sat perfectly still for 5 full seconds. Then he started laughing, not crazy laughter, calm, almost amused. Well, I suppose the secret is out. Harold Chen found his voice. Richard, tell me that recording is fake. Tell me you didn't kill Robert. I wish I could, Harold, but I'm afraid it's quite real. He stood, adjusted his tie. For what it's worth, I didn't want to kill him. Robert was my friend, but he left me no choice. I had invested unwisely, lost money I couldn't afford to lose. The only way to cover it was to borrow from the company. I always intended to pay it back. This is murder, Victoria's voice shook with rage. You killed my father for money. I killed my friend to preserve my life. There's a difference. Richard reached into his jacket pocket. Every board member flinched, expecting a gun. Instead, he pulled out a phone, pressed a button, held it up. I've just sent a signal. In 60 seconds, every copy of that recording will be deleted. Every file on that USB will be corrupted. Every piece of evidence you thought you had will be gone. Victoria went white. You can't do that. I can, and I did. You see, I'm very good at covering my tracks. The recording you just played, that was the only copy, and it's encrypted, self-destructing. In about 30 seconds, it will be nothing but digital noise. He smiled. The mask was completely gone now. What remained was cold, calculating, evil. So here's what's going to happen. You're all going to forget what you heard. Victoria is going to step down as CEO for health reasons. I will take over as interim leader. And in 6 months, after everyone has forgotten about this, I'll retire to the Cayman Islands with the fortune I've earned. We'll go to the police, Harold said. We'll testify about what we heard. With what evidence? A recording that no longer exists. My word against yours. I have the police commissioner in my pocket. I have half the city council. You have nothing. Jamal had heard enough. He stepped forward. Actually, you have one problem with your plan. Richard's eyes swung to him, saw him for the first time as a threat rather than furniture. And what's that? I recorded this entire meeting. Video and audio, stored in 3 separate cloud servers, with copies sent to the FBI field office in Washington. Your confession, your admission of murder, your threats, all documented. The color drained from Richard's face. You're lying. Security doesn't have access to recording equipment. Jamal reached into his pocket, pulled out a small device, no bigger than a button, camera lens barely visible. I'm not security. I'm the man who pulled Victoria from a car that was hanging off a bridge. The same car you sabotaged. The same murder attempt I witnessed and documented. He tapped his phone, brought up the recording interface, hit send. And that documentation is now in the hands of 6 different FBI agents, along with the financial records, the autopsy report showing potassium poisoning, and testimony from Marcus Drake about the men you hired to grab Victoria from the parking garage. Richard's calm shattered, his face twisted with rage. You have no idea what you've done. I have connections, power. I will bury you. No, you won't. The conference room doors burst open. FBI agents flooded in, body armor, weapons drawn, moving with tactical precision. The lead agent stepped forward, badge held high. Richard Bennett, you're under arrest for the murder of Robert Aldridge, embezzlement, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. Richard looked around wildly, searching for an exit. There was none. Jamal had positioned himself between Richard and the emergency exit. The FBI had the main entrance, the service entrance, trapped. Richard's shoulders sagged. The fight went out of him. He held out his wrists for the handcuffs. As they led him away, he looked at Victoria one last time. Your father was weak. You're weak. This company deserved better. Victoria stood, walked over to him, and slapped him across the face, hard enough that the sound echoed. My father was twice the man you'll ever be, and I hope you rot in prison. Richard was led away. The conference room emptied. The board members filed out in shocked silence, until only Victoria and Jamal remained. She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. Not sad tears, angry tears, relief tears, justice tears. "It's over. It's over." She collapsed into his arms, sobbed against his chest, let out months of fear and pain and grief. Jamal held her, let her cry, didn't say anything, just held on. Eventually she pulled back, wiped her eyes, laughed shakily. "I probably just ruined your shirt. I have others." "How did you do it? How did you record everything without him knowing?" "I'm very good at my job." "You're more than good, you're extraordinary." She stood on her toes, kissed his cheek, soft, gentle, grateful. "Thank you for saving my life, for saving my company, for saving me." Jamal felt something shift in his chest, something he hadn't felt in 4 years, not since Teresa died. Hope, for something more than just survival, for something like a future. "You're welcome." They stood together in the empty conference room, 47 floors above the city, watching the sun set through glass walls. The war was over. The enemy was defeated. Justice had won. But the real question remained. What came next? The news broke within hours. Chicago billionaire CEO arrested for murder, embezzlement, conspiracy. The story was everywhere: television, internet, newspapers. Richard Bennett's carefully constructed life came apart under the spotlight. His connections abandoned him. His lawyers quit. His friends pretended they had never known him. The trial lasted 3 months. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 40 minutes, guilty on all counts. Richard Bennett was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole. Victoria attended every day of the trial, sat in the front row, looked him in the eyes, refused to let him see her flinch. Jamal was there too, in the back, watching, protecting, even though the threat was contained, even though the danger had passed, because that's who he was. When the verdict was read, Victoria turned around, found Jamal's eyes across the courtroom, mouthed 2 words, "Thank you." He nodded, once. Simple acknowledgement. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Cameras, microphones, questions shouted from every direction. Victoria stood at the podium, composed, professional, the CEO the world expected. "Justice has been served today. My father can rest in peace, and I can move forward knowing that the man who took him from me will never hurt anyone again." "Ms. Aldridge, is it true you were almost killed?" "Yes. Richard Bennett attempted to murder me on 2 separate occasions. I'm alive today because of the intervention of security professionals and law enforcement." "Who saved you from the bridge? We heard there was a mysterious hero." Victoria paused, looked back at Jamal standing in the shadows. He shook his head slightly. "No, don't," she understood. He didn't want attention, didn't want fame, just wanted to do the right thing and disappear back into his life. "I was saved by someone who chooses to remain anonymous. A good man who acted without thought for his own safety. I owe him everything." "Will you reveal his identity?" "No, I will protect his privacy the way he protected my life." More questions, more chaos. Victoria answered what she could, deflected what she couldn't. Eventually her lawyer pulled her away. In the car ride back to Aldridge Industries, she sat in silence, processing, grieving, healing. Her phone buzzed, text message from an unknown number. "You did good today. Your father would be proud." Victoria smiled, typed back, "Thank you for everything." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then one more message. "Take care of yourself, Victoria. You deserve happiness." The conversation ended there, but Victoria held the phone for a long time, staring at those words, "You deserve happiness." She hadn't thought about happiness in so long. hadn't considered it possible, had focused only on survival, on justice, on revenge. But now the battle was over, the enemy was defeated, the company was safe. What did she do with peace? 6 weeks after the trial ended, Victoria made changes. She promoted from within, hired a new CFO with impeccable credentials and zero connection to Richard Bennett, implemented new financial controls, transparency, accountability. She started a foundation in her father's name, the Robert Aldridge Memorial Scholarship, for children of military families who wanted to pursue engineering, full tuition, room and board, everything needed to succeed. The first scholarship went to a 7-year-old girl named Maya Carter, with the stipulation that the funds would be held in trust until she was college age, fully funded, no strings attached. Victoria delivered the news personally, drove to the small apartment on the south side, knocked on the door. Jamal answered. Surprise flickered across his face. He hadn't seen her since the trial, hadn't expected to see her again. Victoria. Hi, is this a bad time? No, come in. The apartment was exactly as she remembered, small, clean, full of love. Maya was at the kitchen table doing homework. She looked up, saw Victoria, scrambled out of her chair. Miss Victoria. She ran over, hugged Victoria without hesitation. Pure joy, uncomplicated affection. Victoria hugged back, felt tears threatening, pushed them down. Hi Maya, how are you? Good, I got an A+ on my math test, and Dad taught me how to change oil, and I drew you another picture. She ran to get it, left Victoria and Jamal standing in the small living room. Jamal cleared his throat. I didn't expect to see you. I know, I wanted to come earlier, but there was the trial and the company, and I needed time to process everything. I understand. No, you don't. I wanted to come earlier because I missed you. I missed talking to you. I missed feeling safe. I missed Maya's drawings and your terrible coffee and the way this apartment feels more like home than my penthouse ever did. Jamal was quiet, processing. Maya came back, handed Victoria a drawing. This one showed 3 stick figures, a tall man, a blonde woman, a small girl, all holding hands, all smiling. Above it, in crayon letters, family. Victoria's vision blurred. She blinked rapidly, failed to stop the tears. Maya, this is beautiful, but honey, your dad and I, we're not together. We're just friends. Maya looked at her with 7-year-old wisdom. Not yet, but you could be, if you wanted. Maya, Jamal's voice was gentle but firm. That's not appropriate. Why not? You like her, she likes you. You make each other happy. That's what Mom said love was, making each other happy. Victoria knelt down, eye level with Maya. Your mom was a very smart woman, and you're right. Your dad does make me happy. He saved my life. Multiple times. He's the best man I've ever known. Then why can't you be together? Because it's complicated. We come from different worlds. I'm a CEO. He's a mechanic. I have billions of dollars. He lives in a 900-square-foot apartment. So the world doesn't work that way. People like me and people like your dad don't usually end up together. Maya frowned, thought about it, then said something that cut through every excuse Victoria had constructed. You sound like the mean people at school. The ones who say Maya and her dad don't belong in the nice neighborhood, that we're different, that we should stay where we belong. Victoria felt like she'd been slapped. I'm not like that. Yes, you are. You're saying you can't be with Dad because he's not rich. That's the same thing. Jamal put a hand on Maya's shoulder. That's enough, baby girl. Miss Victoria didn't mean it that way. But Maya wasn't done. Mom used to say that the best people are the ones who see hearts, not wallets. She said love isn't about money or houses or what people think. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be better, someone who sees you, really sees you. She looked at Victoria. Do you see my dad, or do you just see a mechanic? Victoria couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, couldn't defend herself because Maya was right. She had been putting up walls, making excuses, telling herself that it wouldn't work because of money and class and what the board would think. But the truth was simpler and scarier. She was afraid, afraid of letting someone in, afraid of being vulnerable, afraid of losing someone again like she lost her father. Victoria stood, looked at Jamal, really looked at him, saw past the mechanic's clothes and the small apartment and the Ford truck with 200,000 miles, saw the man who ran into danger to save a stranger, who protected her without asking for anything in return, who raised his daughter with wisdom and kindness and strength, saw someone who made her want to be better, who saw her, really saw her. I see him, she said quietly. I see your dad, and he's the most extraordinary man I've ever met. Maya smiled, satisfied. Good, then you should tell him that. She skipped back to her homework, left the two adults standing in awkward silence. Jamal spoke first. You don't have to say anything. Maya doesn't understand how complicated things are. Maybe things aren't as complicated as I've been making them. Victoria, you're a billionaire. I'm a mechanic who works 2 jobs to make rent. You have a penthouse. I have a 900-square-foot apartment. You went to Harvard Business School. I have a high school diploma. We live in different worlds. Or maybe we live in the same world. And I've been too scared to admit that I don't want to live in mine alone anymore. She stepped closer, took his hand, felt the calluses, the scars, the strength. Jamal Carter, you saved my life, not just from the bridge, not just from Richard, but from the person I was becoming. Cold, alone, focused only on money and power. You reminded me what matters, what's real. Victoria, I'm not asking you to be something you're not. I'm not asking you to move into my world. I'm asking if maybe there's room for me in yours, part-time, one dinner at a time, no pressure, no expectations, just 2 people who maybe care about each other trying to figure out if there's something worth building. Jamal looked at their joined hands, at her face, at Maya pretending not to listen. I have a daughter, she comes first, always. I know, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I work 2 jobs. I don't have time for fancy dates and society events. I don't want fancy dates. I want terrible coffee in your kitchen and crayon drawings on my office wall. I'm a mechanic. The board will hate it. The media will have a field day. Let them. I'm tired of living for other people's approval. Jamal was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, one dinner tomorrow, nothing fancy, just pizza at the place down the street. Maya comes too. Victoria smiled, really smiled for the first time in months. Pizza sounds perfect. And if this doesn't work, if the differences are too much, we stay friends, no hard feelings. Deal. She squeezed his hand, let go, walked to the door, turned back. For what it's worth, Jamal, I think your wife was right. Love is about finding someone who makes you want to be better, who sees you, and I see you, all of you, not just the hero, but the father, the man, the person who drinks terrible coffee and drives a truck with duct tape holding the mirror on. That's a lot of flaws to accept. They're not flaws, they're what makes you real. And I've been surrounded by perfect people my whole life. Perfect is lonely, real is home. She left, got in her car, drove back to her penthouse. And for the first time since her father died, the space didn't feel quite so empty. 1 year later, the wedding was small, 50 people, close friends, family, no media, no fanfare. Victoria wore a simple white dress. Nothing designer, nothing expensive, just elegant and comfortable. Jamal wore a suit he bought off the rack, navy blue, tie that Maya helped him pick out. They got married at a small church on the south side. the same church where Teresa's funeral had been held 4 years earlier. Victoria insisted, said it felt right to start their new life in a place that honored the woman who had shaped Jamal into the man he was. Maya was the flower girl. She took her job very seriously, scattered petals with perfect precision, smiled at everyone, charmed the entire congregation. Pete walked Victoria down the aisle. She had asked him 3 months earlier. Her own father was gone. Richard Bennett had taken him, but Pete had been there, had given Jamal a job when he needed one, had been kind when kindness mattered. "You sure about this, kid?" Pete whispered as they walked. "It's not too late to run." Victoria laughed. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." The ceremony was simple, traditional vows, promises of love and commitment and partnership. When it came time for the kiss, Maya shouted from the front row, "Finally!" Everyone laughed. Jamal kissed Victoria, soft, gentle, full of promise. They walked back down the aisle as husband and wife, together, a family. The reception was at a community center. No five-star hotel. No crystal chandeliers, just folding tables and donated food and music from a local DJ. Victoria danced with Jamal to a song Maya had picked, something about true love and happy endings. Cheesy, perfect. "How are you feeling?" Jamal asked. Happy, terrified, excited, all of it at once. "Same. Did you ever think when you pulled me from that car that we'd end up here?" "No, I thought you'd thank me and I'd never see you again." "Fate had other plans." Maya says Mom had other plans. Says she's watching and making sure I'm not alone. Victoria rested her head on his shoulder. "Then I need to thank her for raising such a good man, for teaching him what love looks like." They swayed together, surrounded by people who loved them, people who had supported them through the trial, through the media circus, through all of it. When the song ended, Maya ran up, tugged on Victoria's dress. "Can I call you Mom now?" Victoria's throat tightened. She knelt down, took Maya's hands. "Only if you want to. I would never try to replace your mother. She was amazing, but I would be honored to be a second mom, someone who loves you just as much." Maya thought about it, serious, considering, then she nodded. "Okay, but can it be a special name so I remember you're different than Mom?" "What name?" Maya grinned. "Mama V, like Miss V but more." Victoria laughed through tears. "Mama V is perfect." They hugged. Jamal watched with an expression that was part joy, part grief, part hope. His daughter had a mother again, different, new, but loved. His wife had a family after years of isolation, after losing her father, after being alone, and he had something he thought he'd lost forever, a partner, a companion, someone to share the weight. Later, when the reception ended, they drove to their new home, not Victoria's penthouse, not Jamal's apartment, but a house. 3 bedrooms, good neighborhood, good schools, space for Maya to grow, space for them to build a life. They had found it together, compromised, middle ground between two worlds. Victoria had set up a trust, used her wealth to provide for them, but carefully, not overwhelming, not smothering Jamal's pride, just ensuring that he didn't have to work 2 jobs anymore, that he could be present for Maya, that they could live without fear. Jamal had started his own business, Carter Engineering Consultants, used his MIT knowledge, his SEAL expertise, his harmonic analysis skills, helped companies solve problems no one else could solve. He was successful, respected, building something that was his. They pulled into the driveway, carried sleeping Maya inside, tucked her into bed. Then they stood together in the hallway, looking at each other, husband and wife, partners, family. "I love you," Victoria said. "I love you too. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for seeing me." They kissed, soft, tender, full of promise for tomorrow and all the tomorrows after that. In her bedroom, Maya woke up just enough to smile. She could hear her father's voice, her new mother's laugh, the sounds of a family just like Mom promised. She closed her eyes, drifted back to sleep, happy. 2 years later, Jamal was in his home office when the phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. Mr. Carter. The voice was professional, female, military bearing. This is Captain Sarah Chen from the Pentagon. We have a situation that requires your particular expertise. Jamal leaned back in his chair. I'm retired, Captain. Have been for 6 years. I know, but this is special circumstances. We've been tracking a defense contractor, suspected of selling classified technology to foreign adversaries. The investigation has stalled. We need someone who understands both the technical side and the tactical side. Your name came up. How did you get my number? Your former commander. He said if anyone could help, it would be you. Jamal looked at the photo on his desk. Maya and Victoria, smiling, happy, safe. I have a family now, Captain, a daughter, a wife. I can't just leave. We understand. That's why we're asking, not ordering. This would be consulting. No field work, just analysis, 2 weeks. Good pay, serving your country. Let me talk to my family. Of course, but Mr. Carter, this is important. Lives are at stake. The kind of threat you spent 8 years fighting, it's still out there. The line went dead. Jamal sat in silence, thinking, remembering the old life, the missions, the purpose. He had walked away because Maya needed him, because Teresa was dying, because being a hero wasn't worth losing his family. But his family was stable now, safe, happy, and somewhere people were in danger, people he had the skills to help. Victoria appeared in the doorway, saw his expression. What is it? Pentagon called. They want my help on an investigation. Consultant work, 2 weeks. Do you want to do it? I don't know. Part of me does. Part of me is terrified of falling back into that life. Victoria walked over, sat on his lap, wrapped her arms around him. You're not falling back into anything. You're choosing to help. There's a difference. And I knew when I married you that you were someone who runs toward danger, not away from it. It's who you are. What about Maya? Maya is proud of her father. She tells everyone her dad is a hero. Let her be right. Jamal held his wife, felt her heartbeat against his chest. Steady, sure, trusting. 2 weeks, just consulting, then I come home. 2 weeks, but Jamal, come home, always come home. Always. He called the number back, accepted the assignment. 2 weeks later, he was sitting in a Pentagon briefing room, looking at classified documents, using skills he thought he'd left behind, and he found the evidence, traced the transactions, identified the threat, saved lives. When it was over, they offered him a permanent position, good money, important work, a chance to serve again. He said no, because there were different kinds of service, different kinds of heroism. Being there for Maya when she needed help with homework, that was heroism. Supporting Victoria when the company faced challenges, that was service. Being present, being steady, being there, that mattered more than any mission. He came home, walked through the door, was tackled by Maya, who had missed him desperately. Victoria hugged him, kissed him, whispered, "Welcome home, hero." And Jamal realized something. He had spent 8 years fighting evil across the world, risking his life in dark places, but the real battle was here, building a life, raising a daughter, loving a wife, choosing to show up every day with kindness and strength and commitment. That was the hardest mission, the most important mission, and it was one he would never walk away from. Because in the end, being a hero wasn't about fighting enemies or saving lives or wearing a uniform. It was about keeping promises, about being the man his daughter could look up to, about giving his wife a partner she could trust. It was about doing the right thing, every day, in small ways, in big ways. It was about being human, and Jamal Carter was finally okay with that.